Let's talk about making mobile-friendly subject lines.
You're a voice actor. You're an entrepreneur. You're a VOPRENEUR. Welcome to the Everyday VOpreneur podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover.
Having your voiceover demos easily playable and downloadable on your website is essential. The VoiceZam player lets you do that across any device and browser. There are also options for adding play buttons in your email signature, tracking your listens, and even putting videos in your demo player. Sign up now at voicezam.com/Marc Scott and receive an instant $25 credit. For full details and to claim this offer, visit voicezam.com/Marc Scott.
The VOPRENEUR podcast. Hey, it doesn't suck.
Not as funny as Conan. Not as cute as Seth Meyers. Not as smart as Colbert. But he's one of us, and that counts for something. Here's Marc Scott, the original Everyday VOpreneur.
Hello and welcome to the Everyday VOpreneur podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover. I'm Marc Scott, the original Everyday VOpreneur, here with another summer series episode for 2022. What's the summer series all about? These are meant to be short, quick hit episodes. I just want to give you one really good piece of actionable, practical advice and then get you back to doing whatever it is that you enjoy doing over the course of the summer. And my hope is that that's exactly what I've been doing with these episodes. Have you been enjoying the summer series? Are you learning things? Let me know, please. Would you post it in your Instagram stories and then make sure that you tag me at Marc Scott? I'd love to see that you're listening, that you're learning, that you're enjoying as well. So I want to talk to you today about mobile subject lines because I think when we're thinking about the subject of subject lines, we tend to just think of it in the broader sense, just subject lines in general. But I do think that there's an argument to be made for putting a lot of consideration into mobile-friendly subject lines. And why is that? Well, we know that at least 55% of all of the internet traffic that happens now is happening on mobile devices. Think about how you use the internet. How much of your time are you spending searching the internet on your phone or your tablet? And so that's where the world is going. That's where a lot of people in particular are checking their emails. And so if we know that people are checking their emails consistently on their phone, I don't know about you, but that's where I check almost all of my email. I may ultimately go onto a computer, but at least initially, I'm getting notifications and doing first reads of emails more often than not on a mobile device. So if we know this, then we need to make sure that we are writing subject lines that are mobile friendly. What does that mean and what does that look like? Well, I want to give you a few points to consider. First and foremost, when you're writing mobile subject lines, you've got to keep them short. It's generally assumed that they've got to be between 25 and 30 characters to display optimally on a phone. What does that mean? Well, think about when you open up your email app, whether you're using Apple Mail or a Gmail app or an Office 365 app. You only have so much real estate in order to see what a subject line is, right? And then it goes off the screen. And so we don't want to write subject lines that are really lengthy because the bulk of that subject line is going to get cut off anyway. And since the subject line generally determines whether or not somebody's actually going to open a message, or at least open it right now, we want to make sure that we're being able to get their attention in the best way possible. And so when you are thinking about writing subject lines for your marketing emails, you've got to be thinking about keeping them short, sweet, and to the point. 25 to 30 characters, that's about all you get. We're talking about a few words here. So that's one thing that you want to keep in mind. Second thing that you need to keep in mind is nearly half of all mobile readers spend 3 seconds or less making a decision about whether or not to read an email. So literally think about it. You're opening up your email app, you're quickly scrolling through. There's really 3 things that you're going to see. You're going to see who the email is from, you're going to see the subject line, and you're probably going to see at least a preview of maybe the first sentence of the email. And from those 3 things, you're going to make a decision about whether or not to open it. So if you're doing marketing emails, they already don't know you, so they're not probably going to click it based on your name alone, which means that they're going to be making a click decision, an open decision, based on the subject line and maybe that first sentence preview. So you really need to work on maximizing that real estate. That's a crazy statistic, but 3 seconds or less is all you're getting. And that speaks to the importance of a really great subject line. The other thing you got to take into consideration is keeping it relevant and not making it clickbaity. Yes, we want people to open our emails, right? But we don't want to mislead them by writing a subject line that maybe promises one thing or implies one thing, but then delivers something completely different. So it is really important to keep your subject line relevant. Now, that doesn't specifically mean that you need to mention that you're a voice actor in the subject line, although I think that there's an argument that could be made for that. It just means that whatever you're going to write in your email, however you're going to approach that email, the subject line needs to tie back to that in some way. So be really careful about that because clickbaity is spammy, and we do not want to wind up in people's spam folders. The fourth suggestion, which I think is a good one, and this is one that I have used in the past with success, is to ask a question. When you ask a question in the subject line, lots of times people are going to want to keep reading to determine whether or not your answer is the same answer they were thinking, or they just want to know what your answer is going to be. It creates curiosity. And when we're curious about something, what do? We keep exploring, we keep reading, we keep looking into it. So asking a question in your subject line can be a really, really effective way to try to get people to open your email. And then the final one, which this one honestly probably surprised me more than anything. When I was doing research on writing subject lines for mobile and trying to think about what are the important factors, emojis obviously is going to come up because, hey, today most of us communicate with emojis. How many text messages do you send that have an emoji in it? Probably the bulk of your text messages have some kind of emoji in it. How many times do you post on social media, whether it's Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, and there's some kind of emoji in it? This is just part of how we communicate now. It's become part of the language. Now, for me, I would have thought that in professional emails, so marketing emails, business-to-business emails, I would have thought that emojis would be a deterrent. I would have thought and did think that including emojis would make me look a little bit amateur, make me look a little bit less professional, that if it landed with the wrong person, right, they're going to cast me aside and they're going to not take me seriously. But evidently I was wrong because one recent study came out and showed that emojis in a subject line create a 56% increase in email opens. Let me say that again. Emojis in the subject line create a 56% increase in opens. And so even if you're not totally sold on the idea of including emojis in your subject lines, I think at the very least, it's worth an A/B test. What's an A/B test? Pick 30 emails. Let's say 30 marketing emails that you're going to send. For 15 of them, you use a subject line that does not have an emoji. And for 15 of them, you use a subject line that does have an emoji. And then just pay attention to the open rate. Which one generates a higher open rate? That's going to be the easiest way to tell. So when you are sitting down to write those emails, I know that you stress over subject lines enough already. And so the last thing you need is one more thing to consider, but this is something that you need to consider because of the way that we engage and interact with our email now. More and more, we're doing it from our mobile devices, which means we need to be thinking as marketers about ways of making our messages more mobile friendly. So just to quickly recap, keep them short, 25 to 30 characters. Nearly half of mobile readers spend 3 seconds or less deciding whether or not to open our email, so take that into consideration. Write a subject line that makes them want to open. Make sure that your subject line is relevant to the content of the email. Maybe try asking a question to generate a little bit of curiosity and make them want to keep reading to find out the answer. And emojis, hey, there may be a place for them in your subject lines. Hopefully this has helped you and given you something to consider as you're getting ready to send that next round of marketing emails. Make sure that you're making those subject lines mobile friendly. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging in. Thanks for hanging out. Want more VOpreneur goodness? Jump online at VOPRENEUR.com.